Well, that the agri sector is under stress is no secret. With almost a fortnight to go for the vote on account, anticipation is building up about the possibility of a farm loan package being announced. At the recently concluded BJP National Convention, a resolution was adopted to deal with the farm sector. The Prime Minister said that his government did not believe in half-baked measures and that his government's policies would take time, but the gains would be seen in the long term. Meanwhile, there have been questions raised about the Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. The government's reply to an RTI query recently showed that it is the insurance companies who've majorly benefited from this scheme, with their profits shooting up from 6,000 to 9,000 crore rupees between FY17 to FY18. Now, if we rewind even further, since 2008, both state and central governments have relied on farm loan waivers as a popular move to try and elevate some of the farmers' pain, but economists don't subscribe to the method. The reason is that this cumulative loan waiver is now close to 3 lakh crore rupees, and this has a tendency to undermine an honest credit culture and therefore impacts credit discipline. So what are the alternate solutions? Now, an income support scheme has been talked about. It is being considered by the government and a final decision is awaited. SBI Soumyakanti Ghosh estimates that a pan-India scheme only for small and marginal farmers could be a scaled-down version and could cost about 60 to 70,000 crore rupees. cnbc TV18 has learned that there could be tweaks to the Kisan Credit Scheme. In fact, SBI's economist suggests permitting banks to renew the Kisan Credit Card facility to a farmer on the payment of interest alone, not the principal. But just interest alone will help the banks and the farmers to keep the ball rolling and avoid an NPA. Ghosh also suggests that a suitable mechanism to enable access for lessee cultivator to formal banking credit without compromising landowners' rights is of utmost importance. And finally, we also learned that changes could be made to the Fasal Bima Yojana. Here, Ghosh suggests enhancing the scheme to cover all crops. Well, before we go to our guests to discuss the solutions, let's hear out what Prime Minister Modi had to say about the farm sector stress at the BJP's National Convention over the weekend.
हम अन्नदाता को ऊर्जादाता भी बनाना चाहते हैं। साथियों, इसलिए हमारी सरकार ने शॉर्टकट के बजाय लंबा और कठिन रास्ता चुना है। किसानों की मूल समस्याओं को सुलझाने के लिए कदम उठाए जा रहे हैं और ये प्रक्रिया निरंतर जारी है। बीज से लेकर बाजार तक सरकार नई और आधुनिक व्यवस्थाओं का निर्माण कर रही है। ये व्यवस्थाएं बनने में समय जरूर लेती हैं, लेकिन इनका लाभ बहुत बड़े स्तर पर मिलता है।
Well, that's the Prime Minister saying no shortcuts. The process to improve the lot of farmers is underway. Joining us now to take this discussion forward, Chairman of the Karnataka Agriculture Prices Commission, T.N. Prakash, Chief Advisor of the Consortium of Indian Farmers Association, P. Chengal Reddy, the former Agriculture Secretary, Siraj Hussain, and the founder of Swaraj Abhiyan, Yogendra Yadav. Gentlemen, appreciate you joining us. As I said, anticipation is building up. There was a lot of speculation whether this was a matter that was taken up by the Cabinet at its last meeting, whether it will be taken up by the Cabinet when it meets tomorrow. But what we are given to understand that no final decision has been taken on the contours of this farm package. Let's start by talking about the solutions offered. Number one, a price or an income support scheme. And Yogendra Yadav, I'll start by asking you this because, you know, post-Bhavantar in Madhya Pradesh, this was being touted as a solution that was effective, as a solution that would work. But after the experience of Madhya Pradesh, the feeling now seems to be that this perhaps may not be the preferred route or the best way forward. Would this be something that the government should consider when it puts this agri package together?
Shireen, one thing is clear. This is not what the farmers are demanding. What the farmers are demanding is legally guaranteed remunerative prices with a statutory farmers commission in charge of income, and where if the farmers fail to get the prices that are offered, that are promised by the government, farmers should be able to demand compensation. Now, that's not clearly going to happen. As far as the Telangana style, Bhavantar, as you have said, is a complete disaster. As far as Telangana style transfers are concerned, please remember, in terms of my minimal expectation, A, that it should not be at the cost of other things. It is not that the government would say, okay, forget procurement, forget MSP, we are giving you this income transfer. That would be a disaster. Number two, if that income transfer takes place, it should go not only to landowners, but also to those who do tenant cultivation. And three, it should be supplementing all other efforts. If that happens, that should be welcomed, at least a small thing that would happen. But if it is at the cost of other things, then it's a no-gain situation for the farmer.
No, when you say cost of other things, Yogendra, because, you know, one expectation also is that, look, it is, if you were to roll it out pan-India for all farmers, the cost could be in excess of 2.5 lakh crore rupees. SBI estimates that for small and marginal farmers, an income support scheme, a scaled-down version, could cost between 60 to 70,000 crore rupees, which will be perhaps a lot more palatable than the 2.5 lakh crores. So when you say not at the cost of other things, do you include the current subsidies as well or not?
Yes, of course, the current subsidies. And yes, if the support to farmers is not to the tune of 2 lakh crore or 2.5 lakh crore in a country where the overall budget is about 24-25 lakh crores, then we are not serious about agriculture. So our agriculture policies so far, notwithstanding the claims of this government, we've actually spent, about 2% of our overall central budget on agriculture. It has to go up, and anyone says the country cannot afford it is not taking agriculture seriously, is not taking 54% of Indians seriously.
Okay. Siraj Hussain, former Agriculture Secretary, let me ask you, sir, both on a price or an income support scheme. And there seems to now be the view that what we have seen by way of the Bhavantar program, etc., have actually distorted the market and have not really translated into benefit for the farmer on the ground. When we talk about an income support scheme, if it were to be for small and marginal farmers, which is what SBI seems to be suggesting, and given the cost, even though Yogendra believes that this is a check that the government ought to be writing, but given the fiscal constraints, if it is going to be for small and marginal farmers, what is it that you would like to see as part of this?
I think so far the thinking within the government has been that another scheme for income transfer without any modifications in the existing system of subsidies is going to be wasteful.
Okay.
That was the thinking till recently. After the elections, however, it seems that now, because of the pressure built by media, the government is seriously considering an income transfer scheme. But obviously, for any scheme of this dimension, a lot more consultation is needed, whether it should be only for small and marginal farmers, whether you know, I have written about it. A small and marginal farmer of sugar cane is not at par with the small and marginal farmer growing pulses in an unirrigated area.
Right.
So whether the government will treat everybody at par, those who receive MSP, those who do not receive MSP. Now these are the matters of detail which I am afraid, because of paucity of time, will not be considered by the government.
Okay.
So yes, if the government has to give something by way of income support, I think within the present budgetary constraints, we may well see a scheme only for small and marginal farmers.
Small and marginal farmers, and again I point out that SBI estimates the cost to be between 60 and 70,000 crore rupees. Mr. Chengal Reddy, let me ask you now, sir, because some of the other suggestions that we are picking up that the government may consider as part of this multi-pronged effort to address the agriculture sector are changes to the Kisan Credit Card scheme, for instance, also changes to the Fasal Bima Yojana. I'll come to the Fasal Bima Yojana in just a second, but as far as the Kisan Credit Card scheme is concerned, what kind of changes would you anticipate? What kind of changes would you like to see? For instance, one of the suggestions is let the ball get rolling by paying only the interest, even if the principal amount is not being paid. Is that going to be enough to provide some relief?
See, the issues have come to a boiling point now before Mr. Modi. And the demands are there by various sections and suggestions are there by various sections. But the question is whether probably these budgets normally reflect the try to win over the voters, as you said about whether it is a cash transfer or interest waiver. But as far as we are concerned, one thing is we are very clear. See, most of the voters this time or even earlier The voting pattern was, this time was really categorized between Modi and non-Modi, because Modi has failed in 2014 election promises. He has made a lot of things, but he is still talking. But we are concerned certain long-term measures or policy changes. Now, you see, this is a very small measure, so forget about it. This interest waiver, nobody is going to care for that. What we want Mr. Modi to consider in this budget is, firstly, how can you reduce the cost of the production?
Okay.
Here, there are two things which he can immediately, within 100 days, let us say that after elections, he can implement. The one is link Manrega, Mahatma Gandhi scheme, with all the entire farming activity, increase the budget from whatever it is now. The second is go in for a total mechanization. Okay. Because you see, here is a big problem. It's not evident anywhere. The labor is not available. We are not able to harvest, nor we are able to do plantation. Okay. Then other 2-3 things which Mr. Modi should deal in this particular, this thing is, what are you going to do with the Tenancy Act? Right. See, this Tenancy Act is preventing huge investments. Otherwise, it could have been taken it really forward. And then the last thing which Mr. Modi must deal is, what is it going to do with the landless? What is it going to do with those Adivasis? You have seen the Bombay, where there is no land right. And then the tenant farmer. You see, these are the issues. It's not simply budget. Budget, definitely 1, 2, 3 items, they will focus on trying to get the votes. But at the end of the day, if Mr. Modi can really introduce them as a policy changes in the budget, probably it may have the short term, it may have some impact, because a lot of farmers are expecting that Mr. Modi will come out with some out-of-box solutions, including, for example, entire money from Government of India, you transfer it to Panchayat Raj, cut off the states, because states have become a nuisance. And even at the district level, we don't want any collectors to be handle this. We want only elected members, so that the money comes to Panchayat Raj, the planning, agriculture planning, implementation must be under the control of farmer. These are all, you may call, these are the measures which, if Mr. Modi can start immediately in the budget, in the next, during the course of elections, Mr. Modi can explain to the people how they are going to benefit. Probably he has a chance of winning over farmers' favor.
Okay, so 4 specific suggestions coming in there from Mr. Chengal Reddy. And just on that point of the NREGS, sir, I want to tell you that the Rural Development Ministry has put out a release just a short while ago. The government has in fact allocated an additional 6,084 crore rupees at the RE stage, which is the revised estimate stage, to the MGNREGA. The total allocation now to the scheme stands at 61,084 crore rupees for 2018-19. The government has allocated 55,000 crore rupees for FY19. So at the revised estimate stage, another 6,000 crores being allocated for the NREGS. Mr. Prakash, we'll go back to him in just a second. But Mr. Siraj Hussain, I want to come back to talk about some of the specific...
So that it can become an asset. See, look at one second, I'll get. See, please remember, if labor component is linked to farmers, he will save at least 5 to 10,000 rupees for every acre of cultivation. Okay. This is what government must understand.
All right.
See, we want them, it's not simple giving statements. No, you get into the details and see that the benefits really reach the farmers.
No, I understand that. I understand that. Mr. Siraj Hussain, to pick up on the points raised there by Mr. Chengal Reddy, look, time is of the essence. If this were to have an impact as far as the 2019 general elections are concerned, the window for rollout, for execution, for implementation is very, very short. What kind of out-of-the-box thinking, beyond perhaps making sort of big policy statements to address the farm sector in the long term, would you anticipate? And what is doable? What's realistic? What's possible?
I think between now and the elections, the general elections, there is not much time to implement any substantial reform on the ground. Even direct income support scheme cannot be implemented in such a short time, because for that we need correct land records, which will take at least 6 months to 9 months if the states are very efficient.
Just on that, so on that issue, sir, like this, I'm interrupting you, because on that specific issue, when we had raised this concern, Mr. Dalwai, who's in the Agriculture Ministry and who's the author of the Dalwai report, seemed to suggest that the execution should not be an issue, because there is enough data with the government to be able to roll out such a scheme if it decides to do so. But you differ from that view.
No, I'm afraid how Mr. Dalwai came to this conclusion. I'm sure he meant something else, and maybe you didn't understand him correctly. Okay. You see, the land records do not reflect the current situation in most of the states. So, for example, if somebody died a few years back, his children should find a mention in the land records. Now, in Telangana, they launched a campaign which took about 6 months, and all the land records were corrected, and even then there were substantial mistakes, and many, registries land records were not found updated even when land was sold to someone else.
Okay.
And the new owner was not recorded. So these issues take time, then they are in different languages in various states, etc. In any case, I am quite sure that it can only be an election promise for the next government to implement.
Okay, it can only be an election promise. You don't believe that any allocation will be made in the vote on account, or perhaps even, before that by this government as far as an income support scheme is concerned. Yogendra, on that point that Mr. Siraj Hussain believes that probably time has run out and it will be more an announcement as opposed to a specific measure that will go into execution, and this business of how feasible it will be, because again I go back to the government's point of view is that, look, given the DBT experience across other sectors, we feel confident of being able to roll it out should the political call be taken.
Shireen, one thing is clear. We are not looking at a proper budget this time. This is vote on account. It should not involve any major policy decisions, and it should certainly not involve things that the next government will have to bear. But going by the record of this government, we should not expect anything of this kind. What we can be sure of are the following. Number one, lots of words will be devoted to farmers in this budget. Actually, someone has written a research paper about the number of words spoken on farmers and how they've increasingly gone up in the budget. Number two, it will be presented as a historic. As you know, this government does nothing less than historic. So historic things will be presented. A few elements slightly varnished up would be wrapped up in a lovely cover, and it will be presented as a great bonanza and gift to the farmers. In reality, as Mr. Siraj Hussain rightly points out, there is simply no time to roll out anything. If this government was at all serious about these things, why was it not taken up 3 years ago, 4 years ago, even 1 year ago? Of course, land records in this country are not in a position where anyone can roll out any such payment in the next 3 months. There is not even a simple directory of all the farmers. The only thing close to a directory are actually, oddly enough, the soil health cards, which are not meant for this purpose at all. That's the only large database that the government has. So there is no question of something like that actually benefiting the farmers. But as you know, it would be all about promising, posturing, presenting. And one point about Manrega, which you mentioned. The allocation that has been done today is no gift because, as you know, Manrega is not a standard budgetary item. It's a demand-driven program. Yeah. And the fact is, nearly 1 month ago, the government was left with 0 paisa in its account. It's a nil account right now. Many of us have protested and said it's a legally guaranteed program. Anyone who demands has to be given a job. So the government was in a legal quandary, and that's why it was left with no option but to release money. You cannot say we have no money for Manrega. That's legally not permissible. Absolutely. That's all that has happened. Nothing big has happened today.
No, you're right about that. I was just trying to make the point that there has been an announcement today as far as the RE dealing with Manrega is concerned. But let me go across to Mr. T.N. Prakash. Mr. Prakash, I think consensus on the panel that time has perhaps run out, though Mr. Chengal Reddy believes that over the next 100 days, there can be some measures that the government can take. Now, if I were to ask you specifically about some of the measures that are being speculated, and this is information that we're picking up from our sources, this is being considered, changes to the Kisan Credit Card Scheme, changes to the Fasal Bima Yojana to include all crops, for instance. Give me your specifics that you believe can be done and should be done.
Good evening. I have lost most of the conversation.
Unfortunately, we lost that line with you.
Good friends, Yogender and Mr. Reddy. Okay, let me take this opportunity to wish all your viewers happy Pongal. I think in most of the cases, harvest starts from tomorrow.
Yes.
It's a beginning. The farmers have given the abundance to the nation, but at the cost of what you know very well, woes, crisis. So let me make it very clear. These are the measures, these are required, no doubt. But if you want to address the issues related to crisis, woes, we have to think something beyond routine, beyond obvious. Okay, let me make it very clear. You have mentioned crisis. Where does the crisis lies? Whether is it in agriculture as a sector or in the farmers? So we often mistake, the very fact that we are dealing with the problem, we have to deal with the problem of plenty. 300 million tons of horticulture commodity. So I think agriculture as a sector for a time being, may not faces so much of crisis.
Okay.
But at what cost in the agrarian crisis? So that's why the problem of the farmer and problem of the agriculture as a sector, this should be separated. Our focus should be exclusively on farmers.
Okay.
I think
so exclusively for farmers, what is it that you believe is the priority and you believe can be realistically delivered in the tenure of this government?
Yeah, of course. Right now, the peasant organization, my good friend Yogendra knows it very well, I have been placing some very important demand before the parliament. There are already 2 bills are there. So in addition to all these measures, can we get into some sort of legal support on 2 major burning issues? One is on, it's not the loan waiver, it's a debt to make the peasantry of this country totally free from debt at least once. Then to see that they don't get back to debt once again. Then number 2, the prices, is there any legal approach to the price? I think given the short time, of 100 days, the nation could definitely commit on these 2 things. Absolutely, there is no legal approach to the pricing. You announce the MSP and you allow the transaction to take place at a price much lower than the MSP. So that's why some sort of legal approach to at least these 2 things. Guaranteeing prices, remunerative prices to farmers. There should not be any transaction below MSP or whatever the price you can say. And also farmers should not be caught into debt once again. So I think in addition to those discussions, those points have been raised. These drastic things, I think the government can definitely commit on these 2 things.
Okay, that is the point that Yogendra was making as well, a legal guarantee to deliver on the promise of price. Yes, Mr. Chengal.
Can I just say one thing?
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, Yogendra.
I just wanted to say, now that we know that the constitution of this country can be amended within 48 hours, within 48 hours of the first thought striking someone, you can amend the constitution of this country. Surely 2 bills which are already lying on the table of the parliament for the last few months, they can be considered and passed. That's the least the government can do if they are at all serious. And can they not also do 2 more things? A, remove all the restrictions on cattle trade. And B, remove restrictions on use of cash in agriculture mandis. These are 4 simple things they can do if they are at all serious. Well, if it's not Jumla, if there's something real happening.
I don't know about the cattle trade part, Yogendra, given how sensitive an issue it has become, whether we could expect realistically any changes whatsoever on that. But Mr. Chengal Reddy, very quickly, in 30 seconds, final words on what you realistically expect, given everything that you've heard so far from the government.
See, one second, let me tell you, See, you see, whatever people in politics say, whether people are now in politics or tomorrow expecting to come into political power, you see, we don't trust nobody, farmers will not trust them. But why I am trying to say because Mr. Rahul Gandhi has announced some loan waiver in Uttar Pradesh. He is supposed to have won. I mean, I don't know the election part of it. All that I can tell you is this. During this budget, if Mr. Modi can make 1 to 10 and then explain how they are going to be ineffective, probably he may have a chance as a politician. Because all other politicians also, we see now, Congress, its allies, Mahakutam, everybody is going, they will be making humpty number of promises. Where is the guarantee that they are going to implement?
Absolutely.
It's not so. Therefore, I mean, as far as we farmers are concerned, anybody connected with the political system, we deal them with a lot of pinch of salt. We don't have much confidence. Only thing is, let me see, because if Mr. Modi comes out during this budget speech, maybe tomorrow Congress or Mahakutami or these regional parties, these so-called political leaders of farmers, let us see what they are going to do. We are awaiting. because there is nothing, we are not, I mean, we know them, we will, let us see, because you know that, let 1 second I'll take you. Have you ever thought that for 10 years, Mr. Sharad Pawar, a farmers leader, was agriculture minister in Congress party for 10 years and he didn't do anything. And here is in this same present party, there is Mr. Rajnath Singh and so many others who are there as from farming communities. What have they done? So we as a farmers believe that it is high time that farmers must be liberated from the clutches of these farmer leaders. And there is one last thing I want to, let me tell you, Swaminathan and everybody across the world said, constitute farmers as the independent commodity boards. Empower Panchayat Raj. Then the farmers will take care. That's it.
All right, Mr. Hussain, Mr. Chengal Reddy's wish list is unlikely to be taken forward, not in the next 100 days, but not by any political party. You know, nobody wants to give up territorial rights, so to speak, and no one wants to give up any kind of jurisdiction or power or influence. So I don't know about that wish list going anywhere. But I'll give you the final say, sir. Realistically now, you know, you've obviously picked up on the buzz in the capital. What is your expectation?
I think some kind of income support scheme may well be on the way. In addition to that, I expect...
Go ahead, sir.
In addition to that, I expect that the government may tweak the crop insurance scheme. Probably the farmers' share in premium may be brought down to a token rupee per acre or something like that. In addition to that, I can see the interest on crop loans getting reduced, maybe by 1%. Presently it is 4%, so maybe it may be brought down to 3%.
Okay.
So these 3 or 4 things I do see happening in the budget.
Well, sir, I have to say that your list of expectations and what we are picking up are aligned. We are picking up that an income support scheme, at least for small and marginal farmers, is being considered, that there could be changes to the crop insurance scheme, that farmers' share of the premium is also something that the government is considering tweaking, and perhaps some sort of an interest subvention on loans may be part of the package, the larger package that the government may choose to announce. When? That is the big question at this point in time. Well, we'll keep coming back to you as and when there are more developments on this story. As I pointed out, the expectation was that this would have gone to Cabinet last week, and the expectation is it may be taken up by Cabinet tomorrow. But there is no confirmation at this point in time. Yogendra Yadav, Siraju Sen, Chengal Reddy and T.N. Prakash, appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18 to discuss the alternatives to farm loan waivers and the package that the government could perhaps roll out.